Hello, fellow shinobi, and welcome to Campaign Comrades. Comrades die twice, or sometimes 3 times, or maybe 4 if you're actually skilled.
Try a couple thousand.
Dragon
Yeah,
rot,
but that's
never
real
heard of
death.
it.
We're talking about just resurrections here. you can skillfully pull off 4 resurrections if you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that require a use of the Jizo statue? I forget how you pronounce it.
Yes.
Jinzo?
Yeah, that re gives you.
Shinzo Abe statue.
If only my guy had one of those on him, man.
That's how That's how in my
mean,
fucked up head, anytime I saw it, I read it as the Jinzo Abe statue.
Realistically, he probably should have drank of the divine waters. Okay. We're talking about Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, if not already obvious. I've changed my name for this recording to Sekijo, because I am the sculptor who will guide us along this path.
It's Matt's pick of the year.
It's one of those, it's a weird, this is whenever someone asks me, they're like, what are your favorite FromSoftware games? This, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring always fall into this weird triple hierarchy of like, at any given moment, one of them can take the top spot. It's not really like insulting to the other two. They play different roles in my mind. Sekiro being the more purely cinematic, more coherent storyline, considerably tighter combat than any of the other games, just because the combat selection is so much narrower. You have to engage with the combat system that they provide you, or you will not beat this game. Whereas Elden Ring, if you don't want to play a strength build because you're scared of not wearing armor and bonking things to death, play an int build and stay away from everyone. And
which is a completely different conversation, right? But like, having now experienced both paths, strength is by far easier. You have such fewer things to manage. Like, you can literally just...
Bonk.
Like, I played through DS1 most recently, and like, fighting against Manus in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC, literally just put on heavy armor, big ass fucking shield, just tanked everything, and then bonk, and it's like literally didn't have to do much. It's super easy.
I mean, it comes down to a resource management consideration where if you can beat a boss faster, you don't have to theoretically endure more of the attacks that you can't handle, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
That's the thing that Sekiro does really well, is when you understand the combat in Sekiro, you can beat the bosses very fast.
But you have to meet it on its playing field, right?
Yeah.
That's, I think,
something that Mike has an issue with.
And that's why most people count it as...
Yeah, most people bounce off this game and say it's the hardest game because there's no like, oh yeah, you just go into the graveyard and find this Zweihander and you can easy mode halfway through the game. Yeah, if you go farm this one Black Knight in the Darkroot Garden, you'll get his halberd, and then, easy mode for the game. Or take the trap chest to go to Ohio, Kaled, and go grab the meteorite staff and
rock sling,
and boom, easy mode for the game.
Rock sling.
There is no easy mode. The only easy mode is figuring it out yourself, that you have to sit there and learn the parry timings and go through and you understand the mechanics of like, oh, my posture's building up, I need to back off and hold guard to build it back down.
Yeah, so it was like, it's a lot of your own intellectual management, rather than resource management of like an int build in Elden Ring.
Well, I was telling Ben
emotional
when I reopened.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
emotional
all of these
and
games
intellectual,
management.
for sure.
If you tilt too easily, you're never going to get past.
You got to keep your blood pressure in check, or else it's not going to end well for you.
That was my issue playing it coming home from work, was like I just had a stressful day where I was like getting beat by clients constantly and their stupidity, and then like coming home just getting fucking destroyed by
just getting mollywopped by the blazing bull.
By Madam Butterfly, basically. No, the bull...
Madam Butterfly wasn't gating you. Blazing Bull was gating you. Because if you beat Blazing Bull, you can continue on with the entirety of the game.
And I did.
Just a side.
And I did, and then I was getting gated by other things more recently, because I did get to explore beyond that. Because one day I just came home, and I channeled my anger against Blazing Bull, and then just one shot, like one time, just destroyed him. He was easy cake. That was just one. Well, and then you said that, and Matt said like the corner to get him in, and I just like bing boop 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 boop
It's
boop.
like I have no tactical insights. I literally just beat him. Like,
I mean,
it's
I
not one that
have
even.
a bit more of tactical insight because I've now run the game 4 full times. So I have a little more clinical understanding of how some of these bosses work. I never went to the point of like the speedrun tactic for Genichiro, putting him in the corner.
Ugh, I hate that. I get that. I get that it's the viable thing for speed running, but it literally makes me angry to see
You and
to see
Grand Pooh
people do
Bear
that.
at last year's Summer Games Done Quick.
I don't like it.
While Parky and Aggie are playing 2 players, 1 controller
That
in
is-
a speed run.
Is nuts. That is nuts. Those type of challenge runs.
Yeah. Andrew, you look
What?
a little blown away. They play half controller each. She
How?
plays left stick, D-pad, and left trigger and bumper.
Is there physically
right
one
stick.
controller?
Yeah,
they're
Oh my
they're
God.
sitting right next to each other and sharing the same controller. It
That's
helps that they're a
crazy.
couple and that they live together and do that regularly.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Practice that
they've done
regularly.
multiple.
That's impressive. That's a next level thing I've not seen yet. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy.
It's one of the more interesting challenge runs because especially the earlier attempts of those that they used to do, there was definitely a little bit of like, hey, you're just not doing the thing you're supposed to be doing.
If your relationship can withstand that, like, ooh, that is a level of strength I was previously unaware of. That is
Yeah.
impressive. Fuck.
I mean, she's Canadian and got him to move to Canada, so that's some strength right there. But yeah, I decided that we were, this is a game that we've all already played more or less. Mike tried.
Mike's gonna
Tried and
continue.
failed.
No, he's gonna continue. It was just I
You
realized
say
I
this, but
needed-
which of the games that we've played that you say you're going to continue have you continued?
Cyberpunk. I've played more Cyberpunk.
What's going to end up
yeah.
happening is Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to come out. And he's just gonna
Oh
play
my
that.
god! Just play Ghost of Tsushima instead.
Yes. Yes.
God damn.
Definitely play Ghost of Tsushima instead.
It was part of the thing that played into my thought process for this was play the good Shinobi game.
They're
Oh
both
my
good.
God.
They're both good.
But he's referring
I
to
was
he's
saying instead
referring
of
to
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
And so, to also give a little frame of reference for like this game is why I hated Jedi Fallen Order so much when we played it, because this game's combat system is so much consistently tighter than Fallen Order, and Fallen Order falls into, it's got its own issues of, I think having a difficulty system is one of the things that hurts that game. And yeah, people say like, difficulty systems are an accessibility feature and it allows people of lower skill sets or different gameplay abilities to go through and be able to beat the
intellectual
game.
levels like Mike.
But at the same time, it also allows for a much looser overall combat feel where it's like, okay, all you're doing is making the enemies have less health, do less damage, and make the parry window. Or if you play it on harder, they have more health, hit harder, and the parry window is smaller.
One thing that I'll say, that you've brought up Jedi Fallen Order, and this is something that we've said about Elden Ring too. Because at times watching me play Elden Ring, Ben has commented on my platforming in Elden Ring that I just...
Well, that's the one thing that I'll give you. I must give you absolute props for. Is like you have immense cojones when it comes to your platforming. You just full send,
Full
and
set.
no hesitation.
And
No
I
doubt
have to
whatsoever.
say, I'm pretty
I
good
mean,
at
according
it.
to the final boss here, hesitation is defeat. So
Yeah.
I somehow am good at FromSoft platforming because Sekiro's
Well,
platforming, I was...
you're good at the platforming that has a jump button. I'd love to see you try Dark Souls 1 platform.
Oh my god.
Dude,
I mean-
Bed of Chaos has entered the chat.
Yeah, that's a whole different story. But of the From Software games I've played with a jump button, it's so smooth. It's so much better than Jedi Fallen Orders. That was so janky comparatively. I love From Software's more modern iterations of platforming.
Yeah, their movement system, there's definitely an evolution that can be seen as their games have gone on, and that especially the Sekiro to Elden Ring jump, you can really see the DNA that Sekiro taught them with how things move. And then especially if you've watched any content around Night Rain, there are just straight up, there's the Sekiro double jump off the
That's what
walls in Night Rain.
I was just gonna say, like
One of the classes has a grapple.
they have really combined the two there. Shows how they were both like in development at the same time and used a lot of the same tools.
And I mean, there's the DLC tier that gives you the Sekiro deflect.
Yeah, and the fact that Melania was definitely a reskinned.
Well,
Sekiro
Melania's
DLC boss.
waterfowl dance is a Sekiro skill.
What's it called? What is it? Is that the Ashina? Is that one of the Ashina arts?
I believe it's called Flowing Cloud. It was the last skill I unlocked.
That would make sense.
Because Ashina arts has like some that
Spiral.
like, do like a lot of slashes, kind of like
It's just Spiral Cloud Passage.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
absolutely.
It's one of those requires you to unlock the capstone skill from 2 different art books. And then I think it requires 9 skill points on top of that to unlock by itself, which is why it was the last one that I unlocked for the platinum. And then I told myself, I was like, maybe I do one more run and equip that instead of... I was using a lot of Mortal Draw when you get the blade.
Enhanced Mortal Draw.
But I was also abusing...
That's the overhead.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that
Like
one.
Me
The
too.
overhead, the Ashina overhead and Mortal Draw and their 2 enhanced versions basically are like for a normal game, for not like New Game Plus or whatever. It's like why pick anything beyond that?
Enhanced Mortal Draw is broken by itself.
Right? It's just it's busted.
Beyond that, I was doing I think I was on New Game Plus 3 at that point. I texted Ben with a hypothesis about Sekiro versus the other FromSoftware games because there's no hiding the fact that they've said it even in interviews that one of the influences of the Dark Souls and Demon Souls initially was Zelda. And that my hypothesis was that Sekiro is the most Zelda-like game that they've built. And the reasoning behind that is you have one main weapon, which is your katana, whereas Link's is Master Sword or various sword combat. Your prosthetics act
The sword
like...
that seals the darkness.
Yeah, depending on which one you're playing. You know, in Breath of the Wild, you could be fighting with a paddle or a rake. Your prosthetics act like the different temple items that you get that you use to enhance the ability to go through certain enemies, or they enhance your ability to defeat certain bosses. Not
me,
as
that's-
hard required.
That's the biggest stretch. Yeah, because
Really?
it's like,
That's your biggest? My biggest is like, what's the dungeons? I don't really think of this game as being very dungeony.
you could
see, it kinda
you
is,
could
though.
consider something like Harada to be a dungeon.
Yeah.
Or
Because
like
dungeon
the sunken.
Because it's...
Doesn't always
The
mean
map
like an
itself is really
underground.
broken into chunks. You have
Yeah,
Senpo
yeah.
Temple.
Exactly.
You
That's
have,
what I was thinking.
you have the Ashina Castle. You've got...
So-
Outskirts.
So I guess that leads me to ask you this question. Do you consider Zelda to be an action RPG or just action adventure? Because to me this is an action adventure game and Zelda's more of an action RPG.
I never felt Zelda to be an RPG.
Okay.
You see, that's where you have to go back to a very early episode on the discussion of what classifies an RPG. I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom fall closer
Yeah.
to being a full-on RPG because there's so much more customization and build mechanics
I
involved.
guess I'm
in there.
thinking of more recent Zeldas when I'm saying like they have
But
more RPG.
older Zelda games definitely fall closer to action adventure, which
You're
is where
right.
this would fall.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that we should hold this to any actual standard, but think about it is somewhat useful. At the Game Awards, Zelda has, even the recent ones, has always fallen under adventure game and has won.
True.
Every Zelda has either been of recent years has either been at least nominated or wins best adventure category. So
The final bit of my hypothesis was that Kuro serves as our Zelda.
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
seeing.
I don't hate that corollary. That's a pretty good comparison.
yeah, it was the dungeon items one that was the biggest stretch for me because you cannot use the
You
prosthetic.
don't
at
need
all.
to engage with them, but they do make the bosses easier when you know who to use. Like using Shuriken against Madame Butterfly makes her a significantly easier fight.
Yeah.
Using the Flame Umbrella against Demon of Hatred significantly makes
yeah.
that fight
Well,
easier.
I will admit that was the only way that I was able to beat Demon of Hatred was using The flame umbrella, because there's like
there was some funny
one attack that I could just never manage to deal. So it's just like I'm a turtle, and then take that element and send it right back at you. Thank you very much.
There was some funny discourse because on my last playthrough, I made Demon of Hatred do the funny fall off the cliff because I didn't want to fight him again.
When you beat him like 6 times, you're allowed to do the funny one.
And when I went to do it, I was doing research into the full technique you need to use. And there were people who were sitting there like, wow, the cheese took me like 7 hours to understand, and like it's just way harder than learning the fight itself. And it took me like 3 attempts.
I will admit that when we get to like a discussion of bosses and whatnot, we can talk a little bit further, but Demon of Hatred absolutely took me the longest. And it was like at one point, like at a late at night attempt, I had seen the cheese thing, and I'm like, let's see what happens. Let's see what it does. And I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't get it.
I mean, the trick with the cheese is you have to run to a specific corner of the map, get him over there, and then when you run around, he'll get stuck behind a tree. So you have infinite attempts before he destroys the watchtower that you use to jump up. Because if you don't get him stuck, he'll destroy it on your first or second go.
I got to a point where I Googled the cheese and I saw the same thing Matt did about it taking longer than just beating the boss. And I said, fuck it. I can do this. And I pressed through.
Yeah.
It's really one of those, the hardest part, not to be like, oh, let's talk about boss cheese. The hardest aspect of the cheese is the mental note of you don't jump when you're on the roof. You jump the frame you fall off the roof, because that gives you the distance you need to get to the other area. And once you train your brain to be like, I have to wait a hair after my character moves off the watchtower, it all just flows together and easy. Then he does the funny jump, and then you get you get a shitload of skill points and some lapis lazuli.
I would like to see Matt do an actual martial art, because I think even though he's a larger man, he would have like the like skills and
he's gonna do Steven Seagal Aikido.
Yeah.
Turn your enemy's momentum against him.
Exactly. He'd be like, very agile.
Kill a man from my seated position.
Yeah, dude, that's all I think about now when I hear Steven Seagal is that fight scene where he's in an office chair just wheeling around, breaking people's necks. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I have looked it up before and I've watched it, but I'm gonna do it again so I can watch it later.
I'm gonna just kind of blow my load a little early here about this game.
Go for it.
Because to be honest, I was thinking about this. I think this is the best action adventure game that's been made. I think this is like the perfect semi-linear action game experience. It has everything you want in that type of gaming genre. I think the combat is super tight. The map is interesting. It has multiple routes. The challenge is legitimate. There's a compelling storyline. Like, to me, this prior to playing this game, God of War was the pinnacle, and this has taken that game's spot for me. And it's not even close.
I think that the map design and layout is the closest to peak they've gotten since Dark Souls 1. Well, Elden Ring's map design is significantly different, being open world.
Right.
But
and it's because it gets back to what made From level design so unique and rewarding was the interconnectedness of it. The simple fact that its hub, the dilapidated temple, is actually connected to everything, right? And that things will always lead back to it. You can walk out the front door and just get started exploring. Whereas like Bloodborne, you have like the disembodied hunter's dream area, and then Round Table is obviously
admittedly, thematically, Bloodborne setup makes sense because everything is in a dream,
right? But just
and technically speaking, in Elden Ring, you find the real Round Table if you do a little exploring in Leyndell.
Yeah. But like, it's from a pure level design point of view. It is, they had gotten away from
there's a great moment
hub.
when you return to Ashina Reservoir. And you're like, oh wait, I've been here before. This is the opening tutorial of the game.
Yeah.
And then I gotta fight the purple guy who killed me 1,000,000 times.
Well, there's
also
not
that hard. It's just the fucking arena.
Yeah, that arena's pretty shit. There's also a 7 Ashina spears there at the top of the stairs where Kuro's tower was.
That one was the first one
him.
that gave me a challenge of like the mini bosses.
I easy clapped him because you can sneak around him and get a free death blow. And then it just,
I mean, yes, you get a free death blow, but he is the first.
Mikiri counter his ass.
He is generally the first spear boss that you encounter. Most people don't go to Harada Estate right away. And yes, you Mikiri counter him, but he does counter you back, and you have to parry the next attack to get the full.
Right.
Because when you Mikiri him, he'll push you off the spear and be like, "No, that's my spear."
But it still is doing significant posture damage. You know.
Yeah.
Even though you're not getting a blow.
Mikiri
off
counter is probably the single greatest feeling thing that they have in that game. When
It took me a
when
while.
you figure out the timing for that and just start Mikiriing everyone, and then when Papa Owl does it back to you, and you're like, "Wait a second, that's no."
It took me a while to figure out that most of the field bosses, if you Mikiri counter them, will counter you back, and you have to parry that attack.
The field bosses in general exist to teach you the mechanics.
Yeah, they're a pain in my
They
ass.
exist to teach you how to Goomba Stomp. They exist to teach you how to Mikiri. They
Goomba
exist to
Stomp
teach.
is something I can't get the timing down properly.
You have to.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Matt was watching some of my streams of Sekiro, and it was the Goomba Stomp that gave me the most trouble.
Yeah.
Like I could see it.
Yep.
I knew it was coming. And like I've been like watching footage to kind of like just get myself back into the, in the mode ready for the podcast. And I'm seeing comment. I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to do a sweep. That's super easy. Why aren't you jumping? Like that's obviously, he's obviously telegraphing a command grab there, so he's not doing those. So the others must be Mikiri. But like for some reason, I just could not get the Goomba Stomp. And
Same.
it was
By the end of New Game Plus 4, I had the download on every boss and all of their moves. I was so locked in at that point that it was like, oh, I'm fighting Sword Saint Ishin again. Let's get all the way to third phase in the first few attempts because, it's not that hard. Let's get to Genichiro and just fucking clap him because Genichiro's simple. And then let's go try inner Genichiro and get our ass fucking handed to us. Because all they do is they take the exact same moveset, slightly tweak the timings, add some different delays, give him a couple new attacks, and all of a sudden it's like a completely different boss fight. And granted, he does, in the inner Genichiro fight, spam the attack you get if you win that layer, which is called Sakura Dance, which does health and massive posture damage if you don't get the perfect parry for it, and it's four parries per hit that you have to do.
It's like at that point, you fought the boss so many times. Yeah, it's just muscle memory. So even those little tweaks are going to fuck you up.
It's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about. So Sekiro is one of the few FromSoftware games. I guess I'll count Demon Souls when I say that never got true post-launch DLC. We never got Artorias of the Abyss or Ashes of Ariandel or Trials of the Sunken King, Dark Souls 2, I think. Don't count me on that one. We never got our
What do you
what we
mean by
did get were a couple free post-launch patches. We got the post-launch patch that gave us a skin change for beating the game and introduced a couple different boss gauntlets, which were the inner fights where you would go through and...
Yeah, it's like a boss rush mode that like is one thing that I would love to have in every FromSoftware game is an ability to replay any boss I wanted to.
Well, they knew what they were doing because Sekiro has some of the peakest boss fights, in my opinion. And it's because there's such a good variety outside of folding screen monkeys, which is really just a speed bump once you figure out which admittedly, cool puzzle fight.
Yeah, that's
when
just
you
a
don't
good
know what's
puzzle.
going on.
It's a good puzzle. I don't have issue with that one. That one gets too much hate in my opinion.
On run 4, I'm just sitting here like, okay,
All right,
kill the
fair.
guy behind me, go invisible, go kill the guy on the roof, jump down, kill the guy on the stairs, jump back up, sneak behind, kill the guy on the roof, I'm done. Okay.
I am annoyed that I died once to folding screen. Is the fucking terror, the terror
chimps.
God damn it.
There's some really funny, when people do Sekiro randomizers, what ends up happening is all 4 monkeys become individual bosses.
There was also of hatred.
Well, there was one that I watched where they changed every enemy to be Ishin Ashina or Sword Saint Ishin. And when he
I remember you told me about one where they did that to Demon of Hatred, and when you go to Senpo Temple and there are all the fucking bugs in the attic, they are all Demon of Hatred. They just take up the entire space.
Yes.
Just 6 Demons of Hatred in a crawl space.
That's hilarious.
But what I was gonna say was when he did the Ishin Ashina Sword Saint Ishin one, the monkeys didn't change into any of the Ishins. The only things that changed were the terror chimps. So when the terror chimps started spawning in, he had like 12 different like Ishin Ashina or
12 Glock Saints just dumping on him, just making that thing talk.
My God.
But I think it has a wonderful variety of boss fights. You got guy on horse. You got guy with sword and bow. And then you take a little bit of a detour, because we're only talking about main bosses here, because mini bosses, there's generally, guy with sword, guy with spear, horrible mutated centipede man with Wolverine claws.
Yep.
One of my favorites. People struggle with what do they call him? What is that one called?
Long arm centipede.
Long arm centipede.
They're
I
fun.
love that one. It was so satisfying to parry that whole string.
That is purely a mashing fight. You can just mash LB over and over and over again.
The one that I absolutely loathe, because every From game has, and even every Souls-like, has a mini boss, field boss, whatever, that just makes me want to kill myself.
I wonder if it's going to be the same one I want.
In the video.
I know it is. It's Snake Eyes. It's the fucking Snake Eyes.
He's so fucking annoying.
They're ladies, and they pull you in and they fucking shotgun blast your ass.
So the enlightenment that happens when you realize that you can deflect that, but it's not when you think it is. It's not when the attack comes out. It's when they go to pull you back, you can deflect that, and it does massive posture damage.
I don't think I ever picked up on that. Them, and I will also give the nobles an honorable mention. Some of them are just annoying.
You talking about the blue shirt guys?
The fish guys, or the elites? Yeah, the elites. The Ashina elites are the blue,
suck.
The blue kimonos.
No, maybe I'm misremembering what I thought they were.
I also really liked the Ashina elite fight, because the one in the top of the tower. If you get that one down, it's
just deflect.
The red eye guy, because when he does, it was so fast. Like, I died, I think, like twice, and then I just was so clean, like God mode on that next one. It's just, deflecting, perfect deflect each of his quick draws, and you just put him down in like 30 seconds.
No, sorry, I misspoke. The headless. It was the headless.
Oh, fuck the headless. Fuck the headless.
Yeah, the headless.
The rewards for beating a headless are not worth the pain.
I disagree.
To fight them.
I strongly disagree because
I don't use the sugars.
Yeah.
You use the sugars, like
having access to infinite sugars that only cost spirit emblems, especially in later runs.
What self-respecting RPG player actually uses consumables?
Items.
Come on,
yeah, that's why you save those, because they're not consumable.
But you save them to the very end just in case you need them. So that means you get used to playing without them, so you never use them. Yeah. So that was the fact, is I never needed them. I never used the sugars.
I use the Gotcha Spirit Fall constantly.
Which one's that one?
That's the one that makes you invisible.
Yeah, that's the one that
I use. Plus.
I never used that one.
I used that one on Chained Ogre, and that was the only time. I got my first death blow on Chained Ogre by going invisible and sneaking up on his butt and getting a death blow. That was like the only time.
The field bosses that annoyed me, and then I discovered afterwards, because I never fought any of them in New Game Plus, because I was annoyed by them, were the Shichiman warriors. Because I discovered after the fact that you can deflect every single one of their projectiles, including their Kamehameha beam.
I mean, you have a version of the umbrella that can trivialize those guys.
But I never liked keeping the umbrella equipped. I always had.
Yeah, no, I agree. I learned to fight them
shuriken, and Mist Raven feathers.
You said you used spear a lot more than I did, at least before doing your New Game Plus runs.
Yeah, because spear pull has a lot of good. You can use that against Guardian Ape. There's a couple different armored enemies that you can use that to pull their armor off.
Yeah, it's the one I never got I never got like a really
Guardian
kind of
Ape is probably my favorite fight outside of Sword Saint. And it's mostly because I was addicted to when this game came out. the footage of people playing him for the first time, getting that first kill, and be like, cool, I beat him. And like, why did the fog not go away?
Big stinky ape threw his shit at me, so I shit on him. And then, oh
no.
There's a phase 2.
And it's one of the most metal phase 2 transitions of all time. Just picking up your severed head and using that as, to rightfully scare the bejesus out of you, scare you to death, is pretty fucking sick.
The funniest part being that phase 2 is by far the easier part of the fight once you figure it out.
100%. Because even though
he's fighting with a sword, I fight a billion people with swords.
Like, even though the sword strikes are erratic compared to normal sword wielders, I found it so much more readable than the fucking just crazy swipes of first phase.
Something I figured out after doing some lore dump reading and whatnot. So second phase moves the way he does because he's a centipede. So
that's why he's so
swoopy and so erratic in that way, is because he's a centipede.
He's got that motion, folks. He's literally he's belly dancing. Yeah.
Drunken
He's got
master.
That motion on him. Definitely one of the coolest bosses. Probably not my favorite.
Yeah, I would agree.
I always enjoyed in my New Game Plus runs going back and fighting him again. I immediately would go back to the depths and fight Double Ape just because I wanted to fight him again.
As far as gank fights go, I don't feel like Double Ape is as bad as people say. As most people complain about it.
You can, if you want to, you can just jumping mortal draw the shit out of both of them. And they both fall pretty quickly to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think what I did.
And it's pretty easy to kite them too. It's pretty easy to separate them. Like I've found plenty other gank fights throughout the From games that I've played were much more difficult.
Double Crucible Knights.
Or the
Double Crucible Knights are again back to my point earlier in the podcast. When you go bonk, Crucible Knights go bye-bye.
What are the flying guys? They're not the
gargoyles?
Yeah, the gargoyles.
The big ass gargoyles.
The 3 gargoyles is probably way worse.
There's 2. Valiant Gargs.
Yeah, the
Valiant gargoyles.
Yeah.
What's probably actually one of the worst gank ones are the fucking in Elden Ring is the Tombstone Guardians. Is that what they're called? The big like cat statue things that like some do magic.
Erd Tree Watchdogs.
The Watchdogs. That's what it is. Those guys fucking suck. I hate them.
Yeah, but you just throw crystal darts at one of them, and then you short circuit him, and he attacks his buddy.
And he attacks the other one. That's yeah. I have seen that. Yeah, that they just fight each other. They just go bonk, go bonk, go bonk.
It's because they move so unnaturally.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't get any like dodge timing down on them. I hated them. Hate them. But yeah, Guardian Double Ape was not too bad.
The peak fight of this game is Sword Saint Ishin.
Glock Saint definitely is the coolest.
What ends up happening is he feels the most oppressive of any boss you fight when you first get to him. You're like, holy shit, 4 phases if you count Genichiro, but Genichiro is really just an appetizer. He really does run up on you and just not give you windows. It's like there's one rock in the arena that you can use to kite him around that you can use to get a heal off. But the trick is you don't need to heal. Just fucking kill him. Just stay up in his face the whole time so he doesn't get a chance to do his silly combos, and then realize that if you perfect deflect 90% of what he does, he leaves massive windows for you to do health damage on top of it.
Yeah, the only ones that you'd want to try to run around are when he does like the delayed like wind slashes, not the ones that he sends at you, but the ones where it's like he does these it's like a mortal draw type thing where he does these slashes.
He does 2 overhead ones and he does a big sweep.
He owned me with that move.
So when you see those coming, you run a little bit away.
So the big overhead one is actually a good window because he'll start off doing an Ashina double before that, and if you perfect deflect either of the Ashina doubles, it'll delay him. And then you could circle around back and get a bunch of hits in.
Well, I think when he did the Ashina double is when I would sidestep. I would not deflect him, just sidestep, get behind him, and pap.
Yeah,
get a couple strikes in off.
It's second phase when he pulls out the gat.
We love Saint.
No, there's an interesting lore implication behind he has the Mortal Blade. Why doesn't he use it? Because this is prime Ishin Ashina we're talking about, a man who didn't need the Mortal Blade to take down a Shura demon.
Where did the gun come from?
I mean, it was Japan.
But it's the Sengoku era. I don't think they had pistols like that. I don't think they had multi-shot pistols.
Yeah.
They
weren't carrying
firearms
blocks?
existed, but they were more like they were like arquebusier type shit.
Yeah.
Blunderbuss.
Like the guns that like the soldiers carry, like the rifles, those are more appropriate.
Yeah, and they have to reload those.
Not very honorable.
Defending my home as the forefathers intended with my smoothbore pistol that, misses.
I mean, he's definitely using a pepper box.
Okay. But it looks like a fucking, it looks like a cult action, what's the,
1911.
I don't know the gun lore. What's the gun that won the West, the Colt?
It's a 1911.
You're talking about a revolver?
Yeah.
1911's a semi-automatic. That's like the standard.
Yeah, can you even call yourself American?
Yeah. We live close enough to Canada anyways.
Yeah, but they're not going to let us in at this point.
They might.
They'll be America anyway.
You're the one state they're like, yeah, we'll take it.
I was trying to think, though, before, I was gathering my thoughts this morning in the shower, who is, my favorite boss? And it's tough for me, because I was so intimidated by everything I had heard about Sword Saint Ishin going into the fight that I consider myself a gaming athlete. I watched the footage, I studied the tape, and I beat him in 3 tries. It was honestly not that hard for me. He was
I actually think Shura ending Ishinashina is harder.
That seemed, from what I read online, that is a minority opinion.
Yes, but my minority opinion falls into it's a small arena, and he has a couple really massive fire attacks that take up a bunch of this space.
Right. The fire further limits the stuff. And, Emma herself
It's also the emotional
hands.
impact of, I just had to kill Emma to do this.
But she herself has got hands too,
Emma throws hands.
She's
Emma, the gentle blade, is not so fucking gentle. Her grab attack is a grab your wrist, spin you around, and then overhead slam you on the ground.
It's like you're her dance partner. But yeah, no, it's interesting that you feel that it's much more challenging.
It also has the better emotional payoff, because Shura ending is by far the coolest.
Definitely super metal when you stab Allfather in the back.
Take both mortal blades.
Get what you give. Yeah.
That's the mirroring of how Al treats you in Harada to how you treat him in Shura ending is what I really enjoyed. He's doing a whole big monologue about how, we're going to take over Japan. There's nothing that can stop us now. And you stab him in the back and you're like, we? Nah, me. Which admittedly, a Shura demon with both mortal blades, who has shown the abilities that Sekiro has shown up till that point. It's one of those where this is just I don't think Sekiro will ever get a sequel. But if Sekiro were to ever get a sequel, I would want to fight against a Shura wolf at some point. Just fully lost to his demon side, both mortal blades. I think that would be a cool...
When we talk about endings, people were saying that they thought that the quote-unquote true ending does open up the possibility for a sequel, and that's why it's the true ending, because both of them are still technically alive, that it could continue. I still don't think it is. It's not my canon ending. We can discuss
you fall
that.
more into, you think Purification is more bittersweet, and
I don't think the story. I think it undercuts the message of the story to have everybody live. But we'll get to that, because I do want to talk about the story. And get everybody's thoughts on that. But no, I'm still stuck on who is my favorite boss. Maybe I want to hear
Divine Dragon, which is pure cinema.
Okay. That's
Damn it! You took it from me.
But that was the point. Matt was also on stream for me when I beat them. So yeah, it's a gimmick boss, right? It's not like it's challenging, whatever. But that moment when you go for the death blow, when you run up the blade, I literally go, it's like this is anime as fuck. Like,
so
this
good.
is so cool.
He's got the closest thing to the Moonlight Greatsword that this game has as well.
Fair.
The glowing green sword that shoots out wind blades.
Waves of energy.
Yeah.
And just the running. I'm like, am I about to run up this sword like it's an anime? And
did you pick up on the fact that Divine Dragon is missing an arm?
I don't think I did.
He's missing his left arm, which is the same arm that you had cut off, which implies that the damage done to those of the Divine Heir's lineage carries over to the dragon. because he also has a chest wound.
Interesting. But yeah, so that one was like really cool. But yeah, Andrew, what were you gonna say?
No,
about that
I was gonna say that it's not necessarily my favorite, but that Divine Dragon is
Your
a
cinema.
metal fucking boss for the cinematics. My favorite.
I think I texted Ben at one point. I think it was New Game Plus 3. I was like, holy shit, I died to Divine Dragon. Because he kept smacking me out of the air when I was going to do my lightning reversals so that I would then hit the ground and take the lightning damage on top of it.
Yeah, he got me once, I think, maybe twice with that.
You must go commit Harry Carey for dying to Divine Dragon. Disgrace upon you, disgrace upon your family.
I think my favorite fight is Shinobi Owl. I think that's my favorite.
Prime or Old Man?
The Great Shinobi Owl. So I guess that's Prime, right?
I think it's...
No, that's Old Man. That's the Old Man one.
I think it's Owl Father is Prime.
Yeah, I just enjoyed that fight.
I mean, it's one of those anime tropes of fighting someone with your same abilities.
Yeah.
He throws firecrackers. He's got shuriken. He's got poison. He disappears into a spiritual owl and reappears behind you.
Is Owl Father when he has the lightning? When does he have the lightning?
He never has lightning.
Kenichiro is the only one who uses lightning.
Has the lightning. That's the second Kenichiro fight, right?
He uses it in second phase of... Technically, you fight Kenichiro 3 times.
Right.
You fight him in the opening. You're supposed to lose. You fight him at the top of Ashina Castle, where he has 2 health bars, and then you beat him, and he sheds his armor to become Genichiro Path of Tomoe, or Way of Tomoe. And that's when he uses the lightning. And that fight is pure script, essentially, where he will always open with a Makiri counter, and then he will always back off and jump to do the first lightning attack, and if you parry it back correctly, you've essentially won the phase.
Yeah, that was another fun one, but I do like the Owl Father fight a lot.
I think why you can mix the two up is because
they're both in the same location.
They're in the same arena.
Yeah.
They're both at the top of Ashina Castle.
I'm going to throw a True Corrupted Monk out there as a cool fight.
Another one that, like, again, Matt was there for stream. That was, like, I was so frustrated because it was, like, something that I shouldn't have died. I only died a few times, but, like, shouldn't have died the times that I did. It was, like, I see what's happening. I see the timing. I just am, like, my brain is seeing the sweep as a Makiri instead, and I keep eating the damage instead of doing the Goomba stop, and just couldn't get it till
the Goomba,
like, 3rd try.
Never liked it.
I try to think about, like, what was my favorite fight mechanics wise, and what was my favorite fight in terms of how I felt afterwards. And probably the two that had the most sense of accomplishment were Sword Saint, but it was just the fact it was more just thinking about, wow, people struggled so much with this one and I beat him in 3 tries. Did I do something, like, in a way, almost undercut the experience for me. But True Owl Father was the one that, like, had the greatest challenge to reward for me, I think. Because I struggled with it. It took me, a good amount of time. But then to, like, really learn the moveset and to learn how to deal with him throwing my own tricks back at me was very rewarding. The one that, like, I struggled the most with and, like, I hated in a lot of ways was Demon of Hatred. Miss Noble, truest, hardest boss in the game. Can't believe how anybody beats him.
That's one of my favorite ongoing memes in the community, is people who take those posts seriously. Like, yeah, I just killed Miss Noble. He didn't seem that hard at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Oh, you must have cheesed him. You must not have fought him the right way.
Oh my God, this guy's literally him. He's, say he is the shinobi.
The mods make him a legitimate fight because they end up, he summons in, similar to how Snail operates in Elden Ring, he summons in a spirit, a corrupted monk, and then he can also summon in, I think, a spirit Ishinashina.
God.
The Demon of Hatred took me the longest. Probably about
similar to how you said Melania is a Sekiro boss in a Souls-like game. Demon of Hatred is absolutely a Souls-like boss in Sekiro.
Yeah.
Like, I could see him purely in Bloodborne. Like, I could see just shooting him in the face to parry the shit out of him and, like, staying up on him to use the rally mechanic to not lose as much health.
He's so much more dodge focused.
Yes.
He's also just a huge resource fight because he's 3 phases. He does a lot of damage. His health is absurd.
And it's like you can't really, break posture in a normal way, right? It's like you are really have to do vitality damage to get those death blows. It is hilarious though. I love the jiggle physics on his belly and shit when you have to you're just poking him with your stick, basically. I love for how menacing he is. I love the belly jiggle.
I love his opening, his pose that he strikes.
It's a tough boss, and it's like it's also a sad part of the story. That's a super heavy part.
Thank you, Wolf.
Of the overall storyline and plot. I struggled with him, like I said, but I did eventually win in that fight, and I liked that change up with how he doesn't kind of mechanically fit with the rest of your combat experiences. I thought that was a good little misdirection. I didn't find myself too annoyed with it.
I mean, it's purely optional too, right?
Yeah.
It requires legitimately going very far out of your way.
That's true.
It is nice then that there is a statue right in front of him.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
That there's no run back that's a huge pain.
I mean, in general, Sekiro was the start of their uber generous, giving you 1,000 idols everywhere so that you don't have to do run backs.
Yeah, is there really even a run back? I can't.
There may be a couple spots in Harada that, like, if you die, you've got to. It's not necessarily a boss.
The Juzo the Drunkard run back is a bit annoying.
Is very annoying.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's not long. There are just a good amount of enemies.
And a lot of fire blocking, like, direct paths of avoiding those enemies.
I just jumped through the fire.
Me too.
But it's one of those where, like I said, it's got a very coherent front to back story. The endings have impact. Like you were saying with Demon of Hatred, that has a lot of story impact on you. That's your sculptor friend. That's the man who's been helping you along the way. And if you check in on him as the game is progressing, you can see him progressing through his struggle with the demon inside. He's the first failed Shura demon that Ishin Ashina had taken down. That's why he's missing the arm. If you do the vanilla ending, which is just killing Kuro, you take his place as the new sculptor, sitting there waiting for the next shinobi.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like that's a kind of I enjoyed that ending.
Matt, what is your favorite ending now that you've actually played through?
I mean, I think Shura is metal as fuck when it comes to. But from like a pure narrative standpoint, I still think Return is the purest ending. Purification has the better of the other two, where I would much rather Wolf sacrifice himself so Kuro can carry on than to kill Kuro and then just be like, okay, cool, I'm a shinobi without a master now.
Yeah,
I'm going to go sit in a temple and carve Buddha statues for the rest of my life.
Okay, fair. I'm with Ben on the purification ending. I do like that one kind of the best. I think Wolf kind of has to.
I don't like in the Return ending how things are kind of wrapped up. They're wrapped up too neatly. There is a little bit of this kind of loss and tension in the fact that Kuro does kind of die. He is absorbed by the Divine Child, and they kind of become one, and you leave for the West with, really, it's the Divine Child. Yeah. But to me, it gets away from there's too much left unsaid in terms of what the message of the story is going for, and that you're with the Return, your plan is to go to the West, to where the Divine Dragon originated from, to put an end, to eventually put an end, to
fight Sun Wukong.
To eventually put an end to the kind of unnaturalness of this, rebirth.
But if you consider the fact that merging with the Divine Child also wraps up the Divine Child story, because that's one of the sadder aspects of the whole. I mean, when you're going to Senpo Temple, the experiments they're pulling off to find their own version of immortality with these children, and you're motioning for it, but I was going to say it out loud. Like, it took me a little while to realize, armored warriors looking for, Robert, his child, who was clearly one of the people who was being experimented on by the Senpo monks and is very much dead.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Andrew, you go.
No, I wanted to add that, like, I just think this is also like a story about the cycles of hatred and being consumed by it, and in Wolf dying, you're ending that cycle of hate and letting that end, not only just the immortality aspect, but this cycle of hatred.
Yeah, and that's why it all ties together best in my view, in that it's for that exact reason.
Other than the fact that Kuro is going to go on to train under Emma and become a shinobi in his own right.
That's actually not particularly clear, because I don't actually know that happens in Purification, because in the Purification ending, so it is putting an end to immortality, which is the literal driving force behind the cycle. It is what is actually physically allowing for things to continue to keep going, for change to stagnate. Like, that's what they talk about, how like the curse of the dragon blood is that those who have like the gift of the divine bloodline, or those who the divine bloodline impart that gift to, when they die, their blood stagnates, and then it overflows and it is thrust upon others, and that others are forced to bear the burden of your inability to move on.
Mechanically, I do wish Dragonrot had more meaning.
Me too. And so your point, Andrew, I think is the correct one, is that basically, even if we get rid of immortality, that Wolf, as this agent of Shura in a lot of sense, this idea of this kind of constant warring and struggling, and has been this agent of stagnation and death, is like basically he has redeemed himself in a lot of ways by freeing Kuro of this, but his time has passed. He should have died long ago. He must be willing to give up that continued existence to let Kuro go on and be a child. And that is actually what I think, because I went back and listened to the dialogue. It seemed to me, it has now at least been a little while since I watched the compilation of all the endings. Emma says she's going to stay, that she's staying behind, and Kuro is going off on his own, that he's going off to explore on his own. It doesn't necessarily say that he's going west like he would in the Return ending, but he basically says bye-bye. He goes off, and it doesn't say that they're going together. She stays behind, like at Wolf's grave, and he goes off.
I also want to say that this, like, the themes around hatred, I think it give a really legitimate and better reason for the high level of difficulty this game commands, in a way that some of FromSoft's other games don't really have a narrative tie-in into making you frustrated, in that, like, learning to let go of that anger is the same thing that Wolf's doing in the storyline, more or less. Like, it's about not giving in to the hatred.
It truly is a Buddhist game in that way. And like is in a way teaching you through a video game to overcome the anger of the game, of your frustration with the mechanics of it. So I do think that's a great point, that portion of it, the anger, frustration, malice, like that evil writ large that exists in the video game, that exists in you as the player playing that game, like that seems to be like the huge narrative tie, and that tie to the Buddhism within the game. And I think that, so severing that from in the ending is a nice way of wrapping that all up. And is him like getting to enlightenment, if you want to drag out the Buddhist reference, like that's the only one where Wolf gets, achieves enlightenment, and not only breaks the cycle of immortality, in the Buddhist sense, breaks the cycle of reincarnation, and relieving himself of that hatred and that suffering, like the suffering of life.
So this is it's a little nice visual thing that happens, in Japanese culture, from my devil Westerner understanding of it. there's plenty of symbolism that goes over my head. One thing
Centipedes and dragons share a lot of Japanese cultural
the cherry blossom
Yeah, I was gonna say.
symbolism is like this symbol of like of rebirth, but like not in the sense of a continuation of the old, but of something new coming from from the old. You know, new life from death.
There's a difference between resurrection and rebirth.
Correct. And so when you resurrect, normally though, they do have some cherry blossoms will appear, and so there's that level of it. But in the purification ending, as you have given Kuro the tears, and you have to do the final bit of, you know, the one carrying the blood must die, and he draws the mortal blade and cuts his own neck. You don't like see like his head severed or whatever. It's just the camera pans up and there's a puff of cherry blossoms. So it's like from your death, from your demise, from you succumbing to the natural order of things, Kuro is reborn and is able to live a true life. And so that's why it was like the most beautiful of the endings to me. Like, I totally agree with you, Matt, though, that like, yes, it does leave the divine child kind of left hanging in that one. And she gets a raw deal no matter what, you know, like,
surrounded by centipede demons.
You know, so I will accept that bit of it.
I will like.
So there's some interesting, like I was saying, interesting parallels where in Japanese culture, dragons and centipedes share a lot of cultural impact together. Where centipedes get the term of a false dragon, which is part of the implication of the false immortality granted by the centipede infestation.
Interesting.
They're yucky.
Yes.
Yucky. Yeah.
There's also just like another small little tidbit being, so the red mortal blade, its true name is known as Gracious Gift of Tears, which is why you use that one to retrieve the dragon tear from the divine dragon. The black mortal blade's true name is Open Gate, which is why when Genichiro kills himself with the black mortal blade, good old Papa Ishin comes climbing out, because at that point...
Could you refresh my memory if in the course of the chronology of things, has regular Ishin has died at that point, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
when you defeat Divine Dragon, you go back to Kuro's room. Emma is standing over the corpse of Ishin Ashina,
who's died, like of old age.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why he's now theoretically in hell, because that's what the Black Mortal Blade opens the gate to and allows. That's why when he cuts himself, he comes climbing out. So an interesting implication would be, what would have happened if Wolf had killed himself with the Black Mortal Blade instead? Would Owlfather have come climbing out?
Back to the cherry blossoms quickly. I'm a uncultured Westerner, so I have no clue of this.
I believe they call them Sakura blossoms in game.
Yeah, it's Sakura. Is the name for them. So I don't know, Sekiro, Kura, or Kuro, Sakura. I don't know.
No, Sekiro translates to like one-armed wolf or something like that.
It doesn't, but
Okay.
Oh, is that a false Wikipedia entry? Because that's where I read that.
Before we went on for recording, went and typed in Japanese to English, and typed in Sekiro, and it translates to Sekiro.
All right. So it's a made-up word.
Slovenian.
When I Google Sekiro translated, it says Slovenian detective.
Yep. Slovenian.
Which is hilarious because it translates to an axe, which, you know, is...
That's what Ishin tells you when he gives you the name. Oh, one-armed wolf. I shall call you Sekiro.
Yeah, this is Sekiro. Yeah. It just translates to Sekiro.
Okay. Hilarious.
He had given the name Sekijo to the sculptor, which was the one-armed orangutan.
Yeah.
So the implication there would be that some form of Seki would be one-armed, and then Ro.
Okay, so this says in Wikipedia that it is a contraction of Sekiwan no Akami, which translates to one-armed wolf.
Yes, that's the full translation. Except I don't see how that contracts into Sekiro. I can see the Seki part pretty easily, but you're gonna have to find the RO in that.
But don't forget that, like,
that's
you know,
just two different lines.
But that's also that's that might be a contraction of characters, not not the anglicized spelling of.
Because I was originally going to ask you all to come up with what your shinobi name would be.
What?
Because we had Father Owl, we have the one-armed orangutan.
That's
we
asking
have Wolf.
for trouble.
Father Owl. What we did talk a little bit about it, but Did you, Ben, have like a favorite prosthetic? We know Matt's.
In terms of greatest utility, had to be firecrackers. Firecrackers like
Firecrackers work on the most things.
Yeah.
never left my hotbar. I mean, I kept the axe a lot of the time, you know, but I tended to only use them against shield enemies, which are not that common.
No.
But are annoying when you don't have the axe.
But I still had it and would potentially use it occasionally because it deals
It does pretty good posture damage.
Heavy posture damage, absolutely. But then it was like I basically used firecrackers and then I saved my spirit emblems for shit like Mortal Draw.
Yeah.
Because Mortal Draw
Fun
uses
fact,
spirit emblems.
you can continue to use Mortal Draw after you run out of emblems.
Yes.
Yeah, what does it do though? It like does it like take health or like just like it's not
it
as
just takes
effective?
it just takes spirit emblems out of your storage.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it had a negative. I thought it had another negative effect.
I mean, it didn't affect me because by the time I was done playing, I had 999 spirit emblems in my storage.
Yeah.
I could not figure out
Me either.
Mistraven's the coolest once you figure it out, though.
I used the finger whistle on one group or one thing in the later stage of Senpo Temple where there are
It's the dudes with the twin blades.
Yeah, do they have straw hats?
Yeah.
Do they like? Yeah, there's like two of them patrolling this
Probably
area.
the strongest individual enemy in the game.
Yeah, so they kind of suck.
Were
But
they
you can
Chinese,
whistle to
and
get.
that's why they had straw hats on?
You can whistle at one of them to get to separate them.
Usually when people mod the game, or the harder mods, like Sekiro Resurrections, or what the other named mod is, but they turn one of them into a mini boss right before the room for folding screen monkeys. And
Matt, did you ever use the fan?
Yeah.
What is the exact purpose of that one again? What does that do?
Increases drop rate, so they drop 2 items instead of 1, and it turns them around so you can get a free death blow.
Does it only work on? It only works like that on field enemies,
Yeah.
right?
So I used it a lot in Gunfort when I was farming for Fulminated Mercury, because it gave me double chance at drops from the big gun carrying enemies,
Yeah,
and I could use it to spin them around to get a free death blow after they'd seen me.
yeah. I didn't use that one a lot.
Flame
Spear is
Barrel
one
has
I
some
wish
interesting
I
uses,
liked.
especially if you get it fully upgraded to the Lazuli Flame Barrel.
I mean, yeah, that's useful against red-eyed enemies, which there aren't that many.
I mean, even without them being red, the Lazuli Flame Barrel does a bunch of damage. Any of the fully upgraded prosthetics are pretty broken. Like the
Firecracker is the only one that I used consistently throughout. Each other one was like always really situational to
Yeah.
me.
I used
like
I mean, spear maybe could have been, but I just like didn't use it.
I
like
used
spear
spear.
also just looks funny because there's an implication of like, where's that spear coming from?
It's telescoping.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
only
where he
as long
hides
as your
it.
forearm,
But
and
would
it's
that
just
keep its
telescope.
It's
integrity?
one of those Timu
The
self-defense
stabs,
rods.
yeah. You pop the button and it, but it's literally just tinfoil.
There was some really cool, around the time of launch, YouTube collaborations with some engineering YouTube channels where they would build, like, one of them built the spring axe prosthetic attached to his arm.
I
Chop his
saw,
own dick off.
I saw on Instagram someone built the fucking Assassin's Creed blades, but made another one where it was like essentially like a butterfly blade almost. Is the only way I
I've
could
seen
describe it. That it could like spin on itself.
I've seen one. It doesn't fully spin like a butterfly blade, but you can like spin it so that you can like
Yeah,
kind of grip it like that.
that's exactly what this was. It wasn't like
Yeah.
full. The butterfly blade was because it's the only spinning one I could think of. But yeah,
I've seen that one.
Uncultured knife people calling them butterfly knives.
Matt is the resident knife guy amongst us. What's the appropriate nomenclature?
you got to look it up. That doesn't count.
Yeah, you're not a real
Yeah.
knife
Balisong.
vet then.
What is
what?
it?
Balisong, Balisong.
Butterfly knife.
I'll show you a ball song.
Cultured enough to know that calling them butterfly knives will get you stabbed.
What I don't know. Did you guys have other more?
You've mentioned essentially
More
every
useful ones?
prosthetic except for the Sabimaru.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, fuck Sabimaru. Fuck that one.
Actually has some pretty good uses if you know who to use it against. Really
Yeah.
strong against Snake Eyes, really
I guess what I
strong
was gonna
against
say.
Skull
I know it's strong against Snake Eyes, but like I tried using it against Snake Eyes and didn't fucking do me any good.
Really strong against Orin.
Who was a fun fight that I didn't need it for. You know, like that's another thing. It's like I just like fighting them straight up, man. So in that case, Ghost.
You don't need to fight her at all. She's 100% optional. She doesn't aggro on you unless you engage her first.
You gotta talk to her.
And every New Game Plus run, I still fought her because I wanted A, the extra experience, and B, because it was a fun fight.
Super fun. You know, I did it because, you know, I wanted the prayer bead from her the first time. But...
And also because that's how you get a Jesus statue, not a Jizo. That's one of the NPC quest lines that you wrap up is the man searching for a Rin.
And you get a single statue.
It's like assume that basically
it's literally just talking to him at different spots.
He's her son, right?
Yeah.
From like she's looking for this lord some or whatever, and basically it's like
I think it's Sakuza.
Yeah, and it's like it's basically assumed to be that this soldier that you've been following along is their son.
We have mentioned it, and it's the first one you get, but the shurikens are very useful against the fucking dogs.
Shurikens are good for taking out dogs. They're good for aggroing individual enemies.
Yep.
I love just parrying the dogs, you know. It's fun to be able to be like, oh my god, I just parried a dog, you know. That's gonna get me.
Trying to make it easier.
When you go to head over to Senpo Temple, when you run across the bridge from Ashina Castle, and you get to that rooftop, and there's the Bell Ogre man with his little pack of dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I would do the absolutely horrifying thing of taking one dog out so he turns around and then parrying all his dogs while he's confused and then backstabbing him. This poor little is an emphasis term here. Like gentle giant man hanging out with his dog friends, just watching them get slaughtered around him.
He's not so gentle then when he literally traps you inside his big ass bell and bonks you to death. You ever talk about one of the coolest but also funniest moments in the game, which I don't know if you got this far, Mike. It's as you're climbing Ashina Castle after Blazing Bull, and it's like you're getting close.
Yes.
You're getting close to the top, and
Yes.
Just this fucker just comes flying from
the first
time, dive bombs your ass.
The first time that happens,
you just hear him screaming, and you're just like, "What the fuck?"
Yep. I was just like, I was so excited that I finally got up there. I was running away from those other people, and I almost threw my controller because I was like,
Dive
bombs. The funniest part being that once you as far as New Game Plus runs go, this is one of the easiest games to run through because
I just ran through it.
You were just literally grapple to the roof, over here, up here, and I'm in. But when you're first doing your initial run through and you want to kill every enemy and you want to pick up every item,
I was still picking up the items. I was still picking up the items. I was just running by, pick up, just kept going. And then I would just run to a fucking sculptor's idol, sit down, rest real quick, reset everyone. Because unlike Elden Ring, you have iframes once you're in the thing at or sitting down at the idol's sculptor's idol. And so I would just rest.
There still is a you can't have an enemy too close when you start it. You can't sit down.
There's a mechanic of this game we haven't talked about that separates it from every other FromSoftware title. A true pause button.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it has no online mechanics.
But it still gives you fucking, what do they call them in this one?
They're the Tonto blades that are on the ground that you can look at. They're messages or they're
But there's no co-op. There's no PvP.
Yeah.
Which admittedly, PvP in this type of game would be fucking horrifying.
I mean, it would be cool as hell because it's just two shinobi just going up. It's literally just
the trick is whoever attacks first is going to lose.
Two students of the blade. Yeah. Who can parry the best.
It's just going to be
that'd be hilarious. It's just you're just circling each other, both just doing the.
That's exactly what it would be.
Yeah.
And it's true because
just doing the parry shuffle.
Yeah. There's also one other boss that we haven't talked about that I want to call out, and it's the Great Serpent, because that's just an awesome cinematic event kind of scripted sequence in this game that I truly just love. It's awesome. It's so cool.
It is cool when you're sneaking.
There was a lot of videos of people with, I don't remember the exact scientific term for people who have a fear of snakes. It's a snake phobia. and the first time that snake pops his head around the corner, the fastest quit out I've ever seen.
Yeah, dude, he's scary.
No, they did a real good job.
I feel so bad for the monkey that you puppet ninjutsu to get the second snake item that you need
The
for
dried
Returnal.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him. I'm just like, yeah, you're big.
I don't, because him and all his monkey friends really annoying in the Sunken Valley.
Yeah.
The group of them are kind of annoying. Like when there's a bunch of them, it's kind of annoying. But he's just all on his own. You could tell he's sad too. You know,
Just a dude
Doing him a
being
favor.
The funniest part is you can absolutely do that section without puppeteer ninjutsu.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
it just takes a shitload more skill.
Yeah, it's more. You have to be way more precise with your jump timings. But yeah, I just puppet ninjutsu'd him, and
no, the drop kill on the snake when he's coiled up on the rock.
Yep.
Cool as hell.
That's one where I'm sitting there is like, you sprayed so much blood all over that valley. There should be a little bit like when you go down to the water after you get catapulted across to that one area where you could pick up a couple items. It's the only time you can go there. And then when you jump down into the water should be red. Is my opinion.
Yeah, that would be a lot of blood. It's a big ass fucking snake. It's a big boy.
I will unashamedly say this in New Game Plus 3, died to the snake.
Damn. Nice.
I was trying to do the speedrun snake skip. And blew my load too early, and he saw me and absolutely murked me. And the fun part is resurrecting there just makes it worse because he's just going to come kill you again.
Wait. I don't know. I think this is,
as you mentioned, snake. There's also the great carp as a secondary field encounter boss.
You know, fuck that big ass fish.
Yeah, not as much of a fan of that one.
What was your favorite areas in the map, both in terms of aesthetics and then you could talk about like enemy and encounter design?
Aesthetics is Fountainhead.
I feel like it's like no question.
Just like very beautiful, very open. I wouldn't say the enemies there are anywhere near my favorite. Getting enfeebled is very, very frustrating.
Yeah, the fucking nobles suck, and then the silly lady who's throwing the lightning in the water.
They always got a silly lady.
Because there's multiple versions of the silly lady.
Yeah, Souls games love a silly lady.
They do indeed.
From an enemy variety standpoint, I would say that Senpo Temple probably. It's also a close second as far as aesthetic goes because it's very like you come out here, look up the mountain, that's where I'm going.
I like the autumnal vibes that you get in Senpo Temple.
I also like parrying the monks.
Sit down, fool. You brought fists to a sword fight.
Yeah, but the monks with staffs, they got hands.
They do, yeah.
I like Ashina Castle. I just have fun with the grappling around, and I like...
It's got the best verticality playing.
Yeah, that's what I really enjoy about that area.
I hate the enemies in Harada Estate because they have the fire. The fire is just annoying.
I mean, particularly the ones with the fire staves, they just poke you. And
that or the fire arrows suck.
I was going to say fire arrows are probably more annoying just because of the range and aggro limit that they have. Harada also has a lot of the axe-wielding enemies, which are generally more aggressive and don't as easily go down as their sword-wielding counterparts.
And you can't Makiri counter them.
I just largely think this is like one of the games of all time.
Yeah,
100%.
One game of the year.
That there is...
Game of the decade.
Really nothing else like it, and it is a uniquely rewarding experience that I think its challenge does get blown out of proportion because a lot of people saying it's the hardest From game ever is from
I actually think it's one of the easiest once you engage with it properly.
It's because it's the people who are like they're fighting off of decades of muscle memory and instinct, whereas for myself, coming at it as a relative newcomer to the genre, it was not my first FromSoftware game, but like I did not have the baggage that I brought to it, or to bring to it, so that I was much more capable of meeting it on its own terms and just diving into its mechanics and its combat system to really kind of just let that sing. It's one thing because of its success, right? A lot of the Souls-like adjacent genre games have been becoming more Sekiro-likes.
Well, that's the whole thing with Lies of P. People were like, Lies of P is Pinocchio Bloodborne, but it's way more Pinocchio Sekiro.
It's got bits of both. It absolutely has bits of both, but in terms of its more core style,
Mechanics.
it is more like Sekiro in its parry system and the arm.
I mean, Sekiro
things.
also impacted Armored Core 6.
But the point is, and it's probably the biggest criticism I have of something like Lies of P, which still gets so much right and is still, in my opinion, the best non-From Souls-like game out there. But being such a parry-focused game, I have not, and that's become the big thing, is parrying is the new everything's got a dodge roll type of shit. But nothing has come close to the effectiveness of Sekiro's parry. It is both demanding but also exceptionally forgiving in terms of, in order to get a perfect parry, your timing has to be quite good. But you're not getting punished for, at least not immediately punished for a
No, generally speaking, in Sekiro, you're doing something right as long as you're at least holding the block.
Right. And so, like, yeah, you're going to be taking significant posture damage if you're just holding it, or if you're going to be taking
Posture
more.
will never break as long as you're attempting to parry.
You are going to take more from a mistimed parry. But for something like Lies of P, you take damage on a non-perfect parry. Mm. It's less
so
damage.
Admittedly,
it's less,
on second,
you are
third,
still
and fourth
getting
runs,
punished.
If you give Kuro his charm, non-perfect parries do chip damage.
Mm.
And that's one of the things you can do to amp up the difficulty, as well as ringing the demon.
Okay. I just find that nothing has felt as no other parry focused game has hit the balance quite right. Whereas, and we haven't even mentioned the fucking immaculate sound design of hitting a perfect parry. Lies of P has a really good perfect parry sound, like that, like a lot of feedback to it, but there's nothing feels quite as good as hearing the ding 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 ding, from
Well, that's
getting
how
off
you
a
know.
string.
That's how you know Melania belongs in Sekiro, because I can hear the string of parries from Waterfowl.
Without actually hearing it. Yeah, Matt, it's your episode. Anything else you wanted us to talk about? Talked about a lot here.
We've covered pretty much everything. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to throw in before we wrap it up.
Well, I want to get Matt from you. Like, what makes this game so special to you that it demanded it being your pick of the year for us?
It's simply the meshing of a pure combat system with no extra bloat, a very tight story that doesn't overstep any boundaries, doesn't involve running up to him being like, hey, go to this place and get me 7 cabbages. Relatively, it's just a very clean game from start to finish. The layout is beautiful. You have a good variety of boss fights, which is something I always enjoy with FromSoftware titles, especially this one being a later one. The evolution is very obvious, especially now that Elden Ring's come out. You can really see a lot of the progression. Gyobu is a tree sentinel. He is
he even does the same overhead kind of slash.
He's also a knight's cavalry.
No, it's clear when you play the two of them, you can see how that they were being co-developed at the same time.
I mean, there's levels to it where people will be like, oh, I don't want them to reuse assets from other games. It's like, I'd absolutely prefer them to not waste their time rebuilding. Cool, use Asylum Demon.
If they could make 2 fucking masterpieces, that has some reused assets, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, what are we even talking about?
Oh no, they used Asylum Demon to make the Erd Tree avatar, except he's way cooler as an Erd Tree avatar.
Oh, wait till it's AI and they're the same model, except each one just has one more finger. What are you talking about? I'm going to use this closing segment to just once again suck off FromSoft. I agree, Ben. This is a certified masterpiece of a game. It is the most perfect action adventure game in my mind that I have ever played. It is what peak 2000 action adventure games could be today. Kind of. It's a modern version of that for adults. It is so tight. Everything just works perfectly. The combat's perfect. The story's engaging. It's a rewarding game. And even though it is challenging, I fully agree with you, Ben, that is a overstated issue here. I am much more of a casual gamer when it comes to these sorts of things, and I beat this game. Like if you
I was gonna say you beat this game.
Yeah,
you didn't drop it.
I beat this game. You can absolutely do it. It is about just actually engaging and finding that equilibrium, letting go of the hatred.
What usually ends up happening to people in this game is because it doesn't have a stamina bar. They're like, I can just spam attacks.
Mm.
And that's usually the pitfall that a lot of people fall into, is not realizing that they took the stamina bar away from you because spamming attacks won't work unless you put Genichiro in the corner.
It's like you have to do vitality damage to a lot of different characters. Like that their posture bar just drains so fast that the only way to prolong that is by chipping away vitality. But the key is chipping. You are deflecting, and then when you have those windows of opportunities, you get in a couple strikes, and then you're back.
There's very few enemies that require significant health damage.
Yeah, there's only a few, but you notice by their posture bar just immediately goes back.
Phantom Corrupted Monk is one of them, where you need to get that health bar down to like 1/3 for the posture bar to not decrease the second they back off.
Lady Butterfly has a pretty fast one, but she's not the fastest. There's another one
That's
that I
also
can't
because she
think
has
of,
very
but-
little actual health.
Right. But yeah, vitality damage is important, but it is not the key. Yeah, that is something that really a lot of people struggle with. They're like, how do I beat the boss without dealing damage to it? It's like, because you're literally just looking for they call it a death blow.
Yeah.
It's like you are just looking for it. It's like about creating an opening you only need one actual hit to actually kill the boss, So it's very...
I've seen challenge runs that do no katana, so no deflecting, no swinging your sword. You have to only use prosthetics, and then the only gimmick to that is, well, I have to do death blows.
I mean, yeah.
How? What?
You have to do the death blow.
That's the one rule about it, is that's the only time you're allowed to, because you can't otherwise.
But how do you even get them into a death blow if you can't parry and have to... Like, how do you have enough resources to just use prosthetics to get them to a death blow state?
That's the fun part.
What's the max spirit emblems?
That you can carry?
Yeah.
20.
I don't...
20?
Okay. What is it? 30?
20.
20.
Oh, it's like I thought you could go to like 25. I mean, there are various skills
that requires you using the Tonto to turn vitality into.
That's something I've got it right. Yeah. Okay. It's like I know I've seen 25.
It's a similar mechanic to Bloodborne has with you can turn vitality into blood bullets.
What's the max chords or health potion?
10, I think.
And that doesn't go up in New Game Plus, right?
Nope. Your health and gourds don't change in New Game Plus. The only thing you increase is your damage. And it's a very hard drop off after a certain point, where once you get to, I think it's 26 attack power, you're gaining like 4 damage per the increase.
I don't think I'd necessarily want FromSoftware to do a sequel to this. I think it's just kind of...
I think it's fine as is and doesn't need one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's particularly with, again, my headcanon ending, I think it has served its purpose. As much as I love the mechanics and I love the gameplay, I think it's great. But, I would love just them to,
Bring Wolf in as a field boss in Night Rain.
That would be cool.
He's in an Everjail somewhere. But no, just create something new. Do something as self-contained and tight somewhere else, but use the lessons learned from Sekiro to do something new. I think that's where Sekiro stands as something special.
The things that Sekiro has spawned off would be like the Neos, the Wolong Fallen Dynasties.
I will say, however, and I'm not going to explain, that it is still a Souls-like. I don't care what people say about the differences. There is enough similarities. It's still a Souls-like. Get the fuck out of here that it's not. It still is.
Sekiro.
A lot of its core design philosophy still is.
I think the proper term is Soulsborne dies twice.
Yeah, it is still absolutely born from the DNA of their games. Hence, again, we've now made this point 4 or 5 times. All the crossover identity you see with Elden Ring. So it's... Those who argue that it's not, get the fuck out of here. Your opinion is invalid. Bye-bye. All right, thanks, Matt. Appreciate you leading this one for us.
That's enough of an episode. We'll be back next week.
Will we
We
be
have
back next
zero
week?
idea what we're talking about next week because we haven't
Are
picked
we-
out.
We have at least one extra week this month where we're off, but it's not next week. It is the week after.
It's the weekend after.
It's Matt's birthday that we have off. Birthday.
Perfect.
Yep.
Happy early birthday.
Perfect.
But no, we have yet to decide what the adaptation is for next week. We should
All
probably
right,
figure
so-
that out.
Yeah, we should
All
talk
right,
about
we'll do that after we end.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, folks. You can follow us on all the social medias except for Twitter because we've still been purged from the posting roles there. I've filed like 3 appeals and heard nothing.
That's what I-
I'm glad that this guy's in charge of the government. He seems really good.
But we have a Blue Sky account now, but it's bleak over there, folks. It's just lib posting over there.
or Instagram.
So check out all the other socials, Instagram,
Fansly.
the YouTube. Check
Yeah,
out the Patreon for written
our
content. Although I
feedback.
didn't have any inspiration this week, and I think I have real work writing to do this coming week, so I don't think I'm going to have anything to add to Sekiro. So be on the lookout for. I'll probably do a review the week that we're off. I'll probably do a game review, either of Pirate Yakuza or maybe Monster Hunter or something. I'll do one of those. Yeah, we can check out the backlog of written stuff on the Patreon for free, open to the public.
Check out our Pokemon little short.
Mike and I did like a little mini pod on the Pokemon Presents. You can check that out on the YouTube channel. And we'll probably also I'll probably plan to do some other, I have to think about what it is, but we'll have some other video for the week that we're off. So yeah, check out the YouTube. Thank you very much. And Matt, thanks again. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.